Good morning.
Good morning.
Will you help me out with your last name?
Yeah, it's Chevrefils.
Chevrefils.
Chevrefils, yeah.
Okay, thank you, appreciate
Yes,
it.
of course.
So we're gonna allow you, here's what you're in for today.
Okay.
So we're gonna go with 2 rounds of questions, each member asking a question. We're gonna let you open with an opening statement, however long you like. We'll ask our questions and then we'll stop you in time if it goes long so you can make a closing statement.
Wonderful.
Okay, and so with that, we'll get started and we'll go to my right with Mr. Basham.
Thank you for coming today, Ms. Chevrefils. Got that?
You got it right.
All right, cool. In your resume.
Oh, I'm sorry, I passed your opening statement.
Oh, opening statement?
I did that last year too, you guys need to.
I'm sorry, okay.
Please, your
Yeah.
opening statement.
Okay. Well, first of all, good morning, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to be here today. My name is Julie Chevrefils, and I've spent nearly 20 years working in and around the outdoor industry. It's an experience that shaped not only my career, but my values and my understanding of wildlife. Throughout my career, I've had the privilege of working on every side of the outdoor experience as a hunter, an angler, a guide, an observer, a mentor, and a business owner. At the very peak of my career, I based my success not on my salary, but on how many days I got to spend outside. My passion for the outdoors has allowed me to collaborate with NGOs and conservation organizations like Wild Sheep Foundation, NWTF, Mulder Foundation, and many, many others. I've had the opportunity to sit on boards that have had an impact on youth in the outdoors and empowering others to recover from trauma by taking them outside. Introducing women and young people to the outdoors has been a pillar of my career up to this point, and I fully plan to continue that path. What I found is that my success and the success of those around me has come from great conversations. Sometimes that's around a formal table, and sometimes it's around a campfire. I've learned in leading my companies that asking the right questions is more important than knowing all the answers. I've learned that people can make a difference by being open-minded and voicing concerns at the right moment, while holding my opinions close when others have a point to make. Professionally, I've built and managed businesses in the outdoor industry, navigating the balance between economic sustainability, customer experience, and resource stewardship. My business background has taught me how to make tough decisions. I listen to diverse perspectives, and I work collaboratively towards solutions that are both practical and forward-looking. I'm currently the CEO of CARB, which is one of the largest media companies in the outdoor industry. We're at the tail end of an acquisition by a public company, so the timing is right for me to devote my time and my efforts to serving on the commission and serving the wildlife and the community of Arizona. I'm committed to bringing integrity, transparency, and a very deep respect for Arizona's wildlife and outdoor heritage to the table, as well as an open mind and a deep appreciation for communication and learning how to give the state a more beautiful future.
Okay,
Now, Mr.
I
Basham.
can go now. Thank you. In your resume, under leadership, you mentioned more women and youth, and hunting, the outdoors, shooting. As a commissioner, what would you do to bring more women and youth into our outdoors and hunting and fishing?
Well, it would probably be very similar to what I've done to this point over the last 20 years. I think joining conversations where people are like-minded and kind of have those goals and hearing what their plans are and involving yourself.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that has looked like mentorship, actually physically taking people into the field, making sure that they have the proper resources, understanding hunter safety, education, kind of enabling people to, first of all, have the right resources, have the correct people to talk to put everything into place, and then activate it afterwards. So I think it's difficult to achieve the goal if you only do one of those things. It needs to be a broad conversation, especially with women and youth. It's the fastest growing demographic in the outdoors, and it's crucial that we continue the momentum instead of just having the fun conversations up front and then forgetting about it later.
Thank you.
Ms. Chevrefils, is that right?
Yeah.
Chevrefils, thank you. As a commissioner, how would you work to build public trust among diverse user groups? So not just hunters and anglers, but also wildlife watchers and other non-consumptive user groups.
I think a big part of that is they want to be heard and understood. So sometimes we bring our opinions to the table instead of really hearing and listening what people are bringing to the table as well. As a commissioner, I would be open-minded to understanding as long as it is science-based information that's presented instead of just emotionally based information. I think that opening up the door for conversation is the #1 key, and then keeping an open mind and understanding, you know, how the facts present themselves.
Thank you for, number one, thank you for your interest in joining us today and being interested in the commissioner position. Polling has shown that ever-increasing number of Arizona residents are not aware of the role that Arizona Game and Fish Department plays as it pertains to all of Arizona's wildlife, even to the efforts that the department makes today, which are greatly improved. Why is it important to raise that awareness level for Arizona citizens?
In my role as the CEO of a media company, information is key. And the way that information is presented is also a key element. People, well, we live in a short attention span society, so it's hard to get good information in front of people if they don't immediately find it interesting in the first 7 seconds. So I think that communicating in a proper way where people have access to the information but it's easy to understand is vital to especially people who maybe aren't aware of what's going on behind the scenes and they don't know where to get that information. But putting information out in a healthy way, in a way that people can understand clearly, can help bridge the gap between the two. If it's a person who doesn't participate in hunting or angling or any outdoor sports, but they're still very curious, I think that the way that the information is presented is the key element to having the best conversations about it.
Welcome, Ms. Chevrefils, and thank you for being here. So in Arizona, a large portion of the land is held and managed by public land agencies, federal and state. Would you please describe what you feel the role of the Arizona Game and Fish and wildlife, I'll say recreationists or wildlife users, have in the habitat management and cooperating with other land managers and users?
Yeah, it's a collaborative effort, right? So understanding what the resources look like in those areas, understanding water management, the game management, understanding boundary lines and how, you know, different projects can move in and help with maintaining sustainability in those areas. I've worked with different programs in the past where one of them is the PLOTS program, the private land open to sportsmen, and maintaining the land for sustainability, repairing fences, maintaining grasslands, and then opening that up to sportsmen. I think that those are the conversations that need to be had where it won't work in every situation. It's not something that's across the board. But when it's different public land access and there are rules in place and enforcing the rules properly, but then understanding the data around the wildlife and the resources and the water management, and then taking all of that information and making what the right decision is for the wildlife and the land. I'm assuming that answers your question, but for me, it's just taking the data in, taking in the big picture, and then finding out what is best for the wildlife and the land.
Good morning, thank you for applying today. Arizona has an abundance of sunshine and wind, which provides significant opportunities for the growth of renewable energy here in our state. We also know these projects are large and impact wildlife from a development and operation standpoint. So what are your views on renewable energy development in Arizona, and how would you guide the department to work with these developers?
Well, I think that, again, with all of the right information in front of a person, you can see what's best for the resources. I think that budgeting is crucial. Understanding where the funds are coming from and how they're being used is crucial. But also what's best for the natural resources, obviously. My stance on that is if it's proper for the wildlife and for the land management, and it also does a great thing for the citizens and the people, then if the numbers look correct, I think it's a conversation worth having.
Thank you.
Back to me. No?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, it is, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm getting in trouble this morning.
Through my mind.
Could you discuss and elaborate a little bit your experience in wildlife and habitat management, how that aligns with the Arizona Game and Fish Commission's mission to conserve and protect our wildlife resources?
So my experience is I've actually been coming here to hunt for 15 years, before I moved here years ago. And the more time we spend in the field, in person, with our boots on the ground, the more we understand the wildlife, and especially people who move around the different units, right? So people who hunt in one unit will understand what's happening there, but a lot of us move around the state and take it all into account. And over the years, I think that the department has done a fantastic job of managing the wildlife and the resources. I think they do a great job of keeping track of what's working well and what isn't. I think that having open doors of communication with people who are in the field often is crucial to understanding what that really looks like. I mean, it's easy for us to assume that we know based on harvest reports, but I think people who spend a lot of time out there can give us crucial information on, how the water looks. This past year was really tough for a lot of areas. And the best feedback I got was from having conversations with people who were in the field. So I think that it's something that needs to be managed at a broad scale, but the more people we can bring to the table to have that conversation, especially people who really are out there understanding it and can bring good information, I think that that's the best way to find the path moving forward.
Thank you. Quick follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
When did you move here?
I moved here 3 years ago.
Okay, so you've been an Arizona resident for 3 years?
3 or almost 4, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've lost track of time.
Can you tell me how you define fair chase, and how should that principle influence hunting regulations and technology use?
Fair chase. Ethical and sportsmanlike. Taking a game so hunters shouldn't have an advantage that's unfair. Nobody should have an advantage over the animals, especially using technology. I think that technology is such a big conversation right now. Everyone's talking about drones, and there's a lot of questions going around about that. But anything that gives a hunter an advantage where the wildlife or the game or the animal is not able to elude that hunter is unfair. And I think that there are rules put in place for reasons, and there are so many ethical hunters who would, even if no one's watching, they would never take a chance. They would never do that because it's the ethical thing to do. Fair chase, in my opinion, is the #1 thing that we should be teaching all young people as they come into the community. I'm sure they see stuff on TV, they see videos on YouTube, they get the wrong idea, they don't, and there's a lot of people who, thank goodness they're caught doing the wrong thing. But in my opinion, fair trade should be the #1 thing that we're preaching to, not just young people, but anybody who's coming into the hunting community.
Can you please tell us what you believe to be the 2 most important issues facing the Arizona Game and Fish Commission and Department in the next 5 years?
So, the #1 is the removal of auction tax obviously gave us a dip in revenue, right? I think that exploring other options to bring that revenue back in, just like any business that anyone would run, if you lose revenue, you have to find an alternative route to make that up. There are a lot of projects that are very crucial that money was going to 100%. And in my opinion, one of the big focuses should be, how do we make up for that? What are the other ideas that people can come up with where we're rectifying that situation? The second one, I would say is the biggest, is, man, that's a tough one. That's the first one that comes to mind. The second one would probably be understanding the numbers of the herds. It's been a tough year. As a person who's in the field a lot, we saw a lot of, hurting animals from the drought. I think that the department did a good job of bringing water in where it was needed. I believe it was the first time that for 12 months water was hauled year-round, and that was crucial. But understanding the impact the different environmental factors have on the wildlife, and then helping them recover, including the fisheries, the hatcheries. Understanding all of the information and how we can best step in to assist.
So, if you were appointed as commissioner and you had very limited constraints in a hypothetical situation, what is one of the first things that you would do as a commissioner?
Understand everything that's going on, ask a lot of questions, really dive into what's happened in the past and what we need to focus on in the future. I think sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the big ticket items and try to understand how do we, jump in and solve all the problems right now. But in my opinion, I learn best when I understand historically what has happened. And for me, that's reading the information, that's diving in and understanding, asking the right questions. That would be the first thing I would do, is understand every possible thing that I could about the past and what we want for the future, and then collaboratively work together to try to find solutions.
So you've talked a little bit about noticing how dry it's been out on our landscape in the past years. Where I'm from, or where I'm noticing the most, is White Mountains, like 1% snowpack through our snow-tail stations, and we can all agree it's getting drier out there. So what should the Game and Fish Department be doing to protect and enhance these wildlife habitats as we adapt to these evolving times? So can you give me some ideas of, outside of water hauling, how we can adapt to less snow and sporadic monsoons?
Well, I would have to take a look at the data and the numbers, but on a really tough drought year, I think that we should be looking at, taking it easier on the animals, honestly. We saw it happen a few years ago in Utah, where there was a deep snow, it killed off a lot of animals, and the next year, it was devastating. And it's kind of the opposite thing here. This past year was really tough. It was difficult to see so many dry ponds and animals, scattering because they don't know where to go and there's hardly any food. So I think that we should be taking into account the environmental factors and understanding how do we help the wildlife in every way. And that's, big game, small game, fish, everything, to thrive through it, because we know it's going to change. Historically, it always does get better. But when we have a tough year, I think we should take that into account instead of just looking at, harvest numbers or how many tags are given out. I think that it's our duty to the wildlife to understand how to best help them recover from situations.
Thank you.
Okay, if you have a closing statement for us, that would be.
I do. Well, first, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you guys today. I have a deep respect for the mission of the Arizona Game and Fish Department and for the Commission's role in protecting and managing our wildlife resources. My motivation for seeking this appointment is very simple. I want to serve. I believe that my experience both in the field and in leadership has prepared me to make a meaningful contribution to the continued success of the department. I care deeply about ensuring that Arizona's wildlife resources are managed responsibly, that our sportsmen and women have a strong voice, and that the non-consumptive public feels equally valued as a part of our conservation community. I want to be part of the team that helps guide the conversations. I want to find common ground and support the department's work as we move forward. Arizona's wildlife heritage is something worth protecting. It's worth investing in, and it's worth uniting around. And it would be an honor to contribute to that effort as a member of the commission. So thank you for having me here today.
Thank you for coming, thank you for your interest. Yeah, I guess it is short break. We're gonna take a short break.